What's good, Washington fans? This video, I wanted to talk about the wide receivers and go over the available free agents in the 2021 class. I really like this class. This is a really good class. This is a deep class, in my opinion. And you look at the trajectory of our team, our wide receivers. Other than Terry McLaurin, honestly, there's not a lot of talent there. There's a lot of work to be had or a lot of improvement. I do like some of the guys on the roster. I do like Calvin Harmon. He didn't play last year. He's coming back. Cam Sims showed flashes, but he's 50-50 with catching the ball. Steven Sims was very underwhelming and definitely regressed. He looked awful, couldn't field a punt, couldn't catch a pass. We had a couple undrafted free agents out there like Isaiah Wright, who dropped the ball in the Tampa Bay playoff game. And you watch the game, it's just frustrating other than Terry when guys drop passes and you're like, man, oh my gosh, we need Allen Robinson, we need Marvin Jones, we could use Kenny Gallaudet, we could use Chris Godwin or Juju or anybody. I know a lot of people don't want Juju Smith Schuster, but there's some guys we can definitely get. And even if we don't get Allen Robinson, which a lot of people want, there's still some other guys that are very, very talented, like Corey Davis. So let's break it down here. AGG's coming back. Let's look at the room here. Terry McLaurin, Calvin, Cam Sims. Cam Sims was basically our wide receiver number 2 this year. Cam Sims. Calvin's coming back, AGG, Steve Sims is on the roster right now, Isaiah Wright. So not a very pretty wide receiver core right now. You look at Allen Robinson, he's the top of the list. He's the top of the list. I mean, you look at his numbers, he's 28 years old, 6 touchdowns, 102 catches on the year, 1,250 yards receiving, had 1,000 yards receiving last year. The guy's been a beast with mediocre quarterback play. Mitchell Trubisky, even his earlier years with Jacksonville, Blake Bortles at quarterback, Nick Foles at quarterback. I think explosive catches. I mean, he's made many explosive catches. He ranks 4th in explosive plays, 15 plus yards, and he's 1st in contested catches, 44 since 2019. So the guy is a beast. I mean, he's looking for a big payday. He's looking for a huge payday. His market value is about 20 mil. So we're just gonna have to break the bank for him. And I like where we are with cap space. We have about $42-43 million available in cap space. Once we release Alex Smith or he retires, the cap space is gonna go by at least 13, 14, 15 million. So we're gonna have about $55 million, $56 million in cap space available. So we can get one of these big name receivers. We definitely don't have to be shy. I mean, we know Ron went after, swung and missed after Amari Cooper last year. He wanted about 20 million. So yeah, Allen Robinson's about his market value is about $20 million. So maybe a 3-year, $60 million deal would work for Allen Robinson. And then you pair him with Terry McLaurin. Allen Robinson really is a number 1 wide receiver. I think Terry McLaurin is a number 1 wide receiver. So you would have 2 number 1s on the roster. And honestly, Terry could, not chill or relax, but it would definitely take a lot of the workload off of his shoulders. We could definitely have 2 1,000-yard receivers if we have Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin on the roster, like when we had Pierre and Deshaun and Jameson Crowder. Easily, we could have 2 1,000-yard receivers. Corey Davis is next on the list. I mean, out of the rankings is Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, then Kenny Gallaudet. Then after that, it's probably like Corey Davis. Maybe you want to throw in Marvin Jones. Will Fuller is up there in the top 5. Juju Smith-Schuster, you want to pick between those guys. Corey Davis had a great year. I mean, he did some games where he was a little invisible. The Titans declined his 5th-year option. I don't know why, but he did show some inconsistencies. He finally got healthy, and he actually missed 2 games due to the virus and had 984 yards receiving, 65 catches, and 5 touchdowns on the year. The guy is a big guy. I was watching his highlights, and this guy is just a stiff arm machine. I mean, the yards after the catch is ridiculous. I mean, he put up career highs this year. He had one game where he had 11 catches for 182 yards. I mean, the man went off this year. He went off. I mean, he has a lot of talent. I think he would be the perfect number 2 for Terry McLaurin. Has good hands, was a former 1st-round pick, was the 5th pick of the draft. He's only, 26 years old. He's 26 years old, 6'3", 209 pounds. The guy is a huge target. Would definitely be an upgrade over anybody else that we have on this team. His market value isn't that high either. It's about $9 million on Spot Track. He might get a little bit more than that because the numbers that he put up, and he missed 2 games. Had one fumble on the year, but he did disappear kind of in that Ravens playoff game, but he was injured in that game as well. So I'm not going to make any excuses for him, but he was definitely a good number 2 wide receiver with A.J. Brown, and he would be a great compliment for Terry McLaurin. So his yards after catch, when he catches the ball, he's making guys feel it. Like he's stiff arming guys, putting them into the ground. The next guy I like is Kenny Gallaudet, of course. Kenny Gallaudet, he had a hip injury. He missed a lot of games this year, but he posted 1,000 yards the year before. He posted 1,000 yards the year before that too. So he's a big guy. I think he had he had 1,000 yards. He's 6'4", 219 pounds. I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, 214 pounds. So he would be a great addition for us. He's definitely a number 1 wide receiver. Him and Terry once again could have 1,000 yards together. He's a go up and get it kind of receiver. Definitely creates separation. He's a big body. He's just a tough guy to guard. He's a huge deep threat. He would definitely open up the offense for Washington. And of course, we all talk about bringing in Matt Stafford. If we trade and get Matt Stafford and have Kenny Gallaudet, instead of we still be the Washington Panthers. We still be the Washington Buckeyes, but we could definitely create a little Washington Lions here with Kenny Gallaudet. Him and Matt Stafford have great chemistry too. So those are the free agent moves we could make together. Once again, he's going to command about $20 million. You're going to have to pay these guys. You're going to have to pay Allen Robinson. You're going to have to pay Marvin Jones. You're just going to have to break the bank. Chris Godwin is up there too. He missed a couple of games. He only played 12 games this year. But once again, like the knock on Kenny is the injuries. Chris Godwin had 12 catches. He had 65 catches, 840 yards on the year, and 7 touchdowns. The playoff game when he played against us, he had 3 or 4 drops. Now he did break his finger. He has some splints in his finger or something like that. So he did struggle after the injury, but he still had a darn good year with Tom Brady. And then he probably could have had the year before James Winston. He had 1,335 yards receiving. So imagine if they didn't have Antonio Brown, if they didn't have Scotty Miller, if they didn't have Mike Evans, all those guys that Tom Brady had to throw the Cameron Brate, Gronkowski. So they had to share the wealth. Some guys had to step back, bringing in Antonio Brown. They had to get him acclimated and get him comfortable. So that did take away from some of Chris Godwin's snaps and his numbers. Now he's primarily a slot wide receiver. And, I would take him. He would be great in slot. We can play him outside as well. And he definitely would open up this offense. But I don't think they're going to let him leave. I'll quickly look at his market value too as well. I think he's around probably 18 to 20 mil as well. I mean, he's put up some big numbers, and I think he is, how old is he? He's 26 or something like that. No, he's 24. He's 24. Yeah, $17.2 million. He might even get more than that, honestly. Another guy on the market is Will Fuller. I mean, he's a speedy guy. You just tell him to run and go. I mean, the guy had 800 yards receiving, missed 6 games, of course, because of the suspension, the PED suspension. So that's the thing about him. And injuries. I don't think he's ever played a full season. He was a former first-round pick. They did decline his options. The Texans declined his option because of injuries. So you know how injury history has been here in Washington, knock on wood. I wouldn't take a chance on him just because of the injuries. We just need some guys that are consistent. And that we know that can play a full 16-game season. Now, you do want to take a chance on some guys. Like I said, I wouldn't mind taking a chance with Kenny Gallaudet, and even though he only played 3 or 4 games. So honestly, if they do want to take a chance on Will Fuller, I wouldn't be mad at that either. And he's not going to command $20 million. I think he would command about maybe 12 to 15 mil. But I like Will Fuller a lot. I mean, he's got good hands. Play with Deshaun Watson, and he would open up his offense. We need some more deep threats. Steve Sims was supposed to be a deep threat, but he just really wasn't getting it done. I like Marvin Jones. Next, moving on is to Marvin Jones Jr. I like him a lot. 76 catches, 978 yards, 9 touchdowns on the year. Great hands. I mean, he cooked us in the one game. He had a big catch against Kendall Fuller with a double move and was wide open, and Matt Stafford threw him an easy touch. It was like a 50-yard bomb or something like that. He has good hands. He's about 6'2", big body guy. He's the perfect number 2. He was the number 2 to Kenny Gallaudet. When Kenny Gallaudet went out, he stepped up big time for them. He played in slot as well. And you look at his numbers, weeks 10 through 17, he had 73 targets, was ranked 7th in the NFL. 51 catches, ranked 8th in the NFL. And then he had an 80.8 receiving grade according to Pro Football Focus. So Kenny Gallaudet stepped up, and then one of his last games, Marvin Jones Jr., one of his last games, he went off. He had like 8 catches for 180 yards against Minnesota this year. So we haven't seen anything like that in a long time. I don't think we've seen a receiver get 180 yards in I got to look that stat up the last time we got a receiver with 180 yards. Sami Watkins is a free agent. I would pass on him. Larry Fitzgerald is older. Probably pass on him too. Those are some of the lower tier free agents that are out there. Curtis Samuel is a very, very intriguing wide receiver. Former Panther. We already know how Ron Rivera loves his former Panthers. The guy had 200 yards rushing this year, 851 yards receiving. So he had 1,000 yards, all-purpose yards. And Scott Turner, I think he'd be really good in Scott Turner's offense. You know, he loves the running back / wide receiver hybrid where, you know, you look at Antonio Gibson, he was a running back and a wide receiver in college. Isaiah Wright from Temple, he was a running back and a wide receiver in college. He loves doing jet sweeps. He loves doing reverses. And the familiarity with those guys, you know, once again, the Washington Panthers, you know, Ron Rivera, he would love Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel went to Ohio State, so he actually has chemistry with Terry McLaurin and probably good chemistry with Chase Young as well. Curtis Samuel probably is the perfect number 2 receiver as well. He's 25 years old, was a former second-round pick, had 3 touchdowns, and he cut us up. He cut us up in that game against the Panthers. That was like the second to last game of the year where he did a reverse and ran for like 20, 30 yards. And then had Jeremy Reeves on his back, piggyback, almost scored a touchdown on that. And then Teddy Bridgewater hit him for a long bomb. So Curtis Samuel has a lot of potential. He gets better each year. I think he would definitely help us out. And once again, you don't have to break the bank for him. He's probably one of the better, more affordable wide receivers out of this group. His market value is 11.9. So like I said, it's not like Allen Robinson or Kenny Gallaudet where you have to pay $20 million to get one of those guys. And also an intriguing free agent is Nelson Aguilar. Now a lot of people, and let's talk about Juju Smith-Schuster first, and then I'll go to the lower tier, middle tier guys. Juju Smith-Schuster is another solid receiver. I mean, he's really good, man. Mr. Corvette, the TikTok guy. So if he just focuses on football, you know, we had a guy here in Washington that focused on social media all the time. Ron Rivera would be a good guy to set him straight. Honestly, I would tell him to delete his Twitter, delete all that stuff. Delete all of it, honestly. And then the things he said about the Browns before the game or something like that, just really immature stuff. It is concerning. He's 24, so he's still young. He's got a lot of growing up to do, a lot of maturing to do. But he's still a good receiver, man. He's a great receiver. 97 catches on the year, 831 yards, 9 touchdowns. Had a career high 9 touchdowns this year. Had a couple of drops. Had 3 fumbles on the year, so that is a concern, being loose with the football. But he's more of a slot wide receiver. Once again, he would be a great number 2 wide receiver to Terry McLaurin. He was a good number 2 wide receiver to Attenio Brown. Had 1,000 yards in his rookie year, and then last year he took a dip because, you know, Mason Rudolph was the quarterback, and some other guy, I forgot his name, Mason Rudolph, was it Duck Hodges or something like that? So his numbers took a dip last year, but when Big Ben came back, he came back to his normal self. Now, he did not get 1,000 yards on the year. He did play all 16 games, so he is very durable. He's another guy that could do jet sweeps and things like that Scott Turner likes. He's just an explosive player, and he still has good hands, creates separation, all that. I like Juju a lot. I do. But like I said, the things off of the field, the immaturity, the TikToks and dancing on the logos, that is a red flag. His market value, I'll look at that real quick, coming off of his rookie deal. Would I take a chance on Juju? It's a tough one. Yeah, $15.6 million. So you're gonna have to give a decent amount of money to Juju Smith-Schuster. Would I sign him? I wouldn't mind it, but it would be a bad look because of the TikTok. He has to delete his TikTok. There's a lot of things with Ron. I don't think Ron's gonna tolerate that stuff. Definitely. Now Mike Tomlin, he's supposed to be a disciplined coach, so it's like, okay, would that work with Ron Rivera? Like I said, you gotta get rid of the TikTok. You gotta let those things go. But he would be a good addition to the team. We already talked about Juju. AJ Green is a free agent. I would pass on him. I do want to talk about Nelson Aguilar. I do want to talk about him. He's an intriguing free agent. They don't even have a market value on him on SpotTrack because he was so bad with Philly. He had a good year with Nick Foles, and he had a terrible year with Carson Wentz where he just had hands like a snake, couldn't catch the football at all. Was just alligator arms and everything. And then he goes to Vegas, and he has 896 yards on the year, 48 catches. So he had 18 yards per catch. So he's more of a speed guy. He's a slot guy too. I would not pick him up just because, and he had 8 touchdowns on the year. He went bonkers this year. Nelson Aguilar went bonkers with David Carr. I would not take a chance on him just because of the hands. We know he drops a lot of passes, so I would not take him. I think he's going to be available maybe like week 2 of free agents, kind of like how Robbie Anderson was floating around for a little while. I was like, go get Robbie, go get him. The man can run. He's super fast. We need that speed. So I would personally pass on Nelson Aguilar. It just depends on the money. If he's still floating around in free agency, and let's say we get Marvin Jones from Detroit for about 10 mil or something like that, and Nelson Aguilar still floating around, I might want to pick him up, honestly. John Ross is an intriguing free agent. He can run. He can go get it. He's super speedy. The former first round disappointment. That 1 year where he just went off and had 6 touchdowns or something like that before he got injured. He's just injury prone, and he hasn't lived up to the hype. 4.240. Here's some low key. Rashad Higgins isn't bad out of Cleveland. Had 599 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns on the year from Baker Mayfield. He's a low key sign. Rashad Perriman's another low key guy. Former first round pick from the Raiders, 30 catches for 505 yards. Of course, Antonio Brown is a free agent, 33 years old, 45 catches for 483 yards. We know what Antonio Brown could do. He cut us up in that playoff game as well. Sami Watkins, I would pass on him. He had a decent year. He only played 10 games, but he's just injury prone. We know he can get open. He is 28 years old. We saw what he did in the Super Bowl. And Mohamed Sanu's a free agent. We're not going to grab him. I remember I wanted Mohamed Sanu, but he's just older, and I would pass on him as well. Robert Foster, a.k.a. Robert Faster, is also a free agent wide receiver. We might bring him back on a practice squad. But yeah, that's about it. Cam Sims is a restricted free agent. We're probably going to bring him back. He had 32 catches for 477 yards. He actually, you look at his numbers, they weren't bad. He actually did some good things. Like I said, he's just 50-50, but he actually did show some flashes. So I wouldn't mind bringing him back, honestly. But the perfect wide receivers for me, if you can't get Allen Robinson, after that, I would probably go with Corey Davis. I think he would be a great number 2 for Terry McLaurin. He has good hands, big body. Like I said, yards after the catch. He had 15 catches, 15 yards per catch, 5 touchdowns on the year. I mean, he's finally healthy. This year he was finally healthy. Did get hurt in the Ravens game, but the guy, he's a former first-round pick. He has the tools. He's a big body, man. He's a strong guy. He's an ox, and he has improved his route running. So I think he would be a great compliment. So my perfect wide receiver core, if you can't get Robinson, it'd probably be Corey Davis, Terry McLaurin, and then draft a wide receiver. And you keep Cam Sims, and then if you want to keep, and then Calvin Harmon. You keep Calvin Harmon and Cam Sims. But the wide receiver number 2 and wide receiver 3, I would get those guys from outside of the building. I would not have Steve Sims as my number 2 or number 3 or number 4. Cam Sims would probably be my number 5 wide receiver on the roster. So you guys let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I had left anybody out. I do like Curtis Samuel as well, so he'd probably be on the list too if we do miss out on Allen Robinson or Kenny Gallaudet, one of those guys. So all right, you guys, held to the football team. I will be doing more positions. I'll probably be doing quarterbacks next, and then after that, tight ends. Linebackers, corners, things like that. So stay tuned. Held to the football team. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Peace.